Live from the westernunion.com VIP lounge.
Wild 94.9 Rebel Pop Radio, Truth Live. My man Tony Tone. And of course, one of the most buzzing artists in the game right now.
Oh, shit.
Marc E. Bassy. What's up, Marc?
What's up, man? Thank you guys for having me.
Glad to have you.
Appreciate
And, you know, specifically for Rebel Pop Radio, some of the stuff we try to do is really be on artists when they're like on the come up rather than when everybody else is on the come up. So for us, it's a pleasure to have you right now as the ascension, which I hear is the most fun part of the whole thing of it.
I hope so, yeah.
So the one sheet that we got about you, just doing a little more backup, it kind of started mostly from East Hollywood, which is probably the most,
recent project.
But I got a little bit familiarized with you with the 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Wow. We go way back.
Way back. What's a little bit of the 2 a.m. background?
So, yeah, I was in a band called 2 a.m. Club a while back, and we, that was like moved to L.A. and like, Mom, I'm going to get a record deal like with my band, and we fucked around and we did it, and we moved to New York and toured and had like a solid time, a solid career, but it just kind of a lot of like crazy music, kind of business behind the scenes, weird stuff happened, and then there was 6 of us, so it was like crazy being with like your 6 best friends all the time. So it sort of it became like too much, just creatively, personally, everything, and it was like time to move on. And that's when I kind of I moved back to LA and started writing and just trying to like get placements and working with like a lot of behind the scenes like Bay Area producers, writers like Nick Nack and Bobby Brackens, and it's like those are my brothers. And so we kind of had this little collective going. And then about like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was like, man, I'm just gonna put some stuff out on SoundCloud, just my own joints that other artists weren't necessarily taking. And that's how Marc E. Bassy was born.
And before that, you were what, Mark Griffin? Mark Griffin? Am I going way back right now?
No, I mean, I still am Marc Griffin.
Still Mark Griffin, but like professionally also associated that with.
Professionally, I mean, as a writer, I was Marc Griffin, yeah.
The 2 a.m.
Sounds
Club.
Weird to say my name. That's so strange.
Is that 2 a.m. Club? Is that from the actual 2 a.m. Club in the North Bay?
Yeah, it is. That's like the local. It's like the last of the real local kind of Marin bars, where you can still like get in a bar brawl.
Isn't that like where like
peanuts.
Huey Lewis and the News like blew up?
And
like
yeah, Huey Lewis shot an album cover there like back in the 80s. So it's kind of like there's a lot of crazy rich like Bay Area music history that no one really knows about. I'm like a music historian. I don't want to bore everybody, but in the 80s and 90s there was like tons of studios. There was like the Plant was up here and a whole bunch of great studios and some of the Talking Heads, and like it was just a bustling scene. And 2 a.m. Club was like, Marin was like a lot of rock stars would be over there going crazy, and 2 a.m. Club was part of that, so it was cool. My band, we were like over there, in there getting drunk and like recording out there for a time, and that's how we picked up the name, and that's kind of what that was.
When's the last time you had a drink in a 2 a.m. Club?
It's been a minute. I don't know, maybe like a year ago.
We could go. 2 a.m. Club? 2 a.m. You mentioned...
Actually, didn't we just go there?
2 a.m. It's never too late. It's never too late to go to the bar, especially now with you might have special operating hours if you go through and be like, hey,
well, I don't know, maybe
getting
not
there,
now.
getting there. Your first spin on Wild was I'm Ready, which I think was the follow-up single for Bobby Brackens, right?
Yes, sir.
So you have like strong ties. I've heard you speak of even though you're in LA, there's still a strong bond with a lot of Bay Area artists with each other, of Nick Nack, Bobby. You got into the songwriting thing, you said coming off the 2 a.m. Club, but what's it like kind of being able to go through this process with people you have such strong ties with?
Also, did you know them before you moved to LA? Did you have a relationship with these guys?
I mean, there's a guy named Murphy Holmes, YMTK. He's like the great connector of me and a lot of the East Bay talent that's around my age, so I knew them from just being around and being, writing, producing, doing whatever. And I met Nick like on the flute, and we were like, let's make a song right now. Let's down a whole handle of vodka.
Right.
Like,
really about it.
Yeah, like
I partied with Nick before. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we just always connected like that, and we live together now. And it's just like a real scene, I I think it's dope that we have a real Bay Area thing going on, and it's very connected, partially because of Bob to LA. Because when Bob moved down to LA, he was the first person to tell everybody about Ty Dolla $ign and YG, and they went on tour. There was a tour that was them three, and then DJ Mustard was just the DJ for the whole tour before he was produced anything, and Krayshawn was the photographer. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah, that's a trip
crazy.
right there.
So it's a lot of like Bay Area, LA. We've been coming up together, you know, for the past 4 or 5 years, and I feel like I kind of came into that. I was a part of that from the outside, from like a pop band, you know, but it was cool to be in that, and that's kind of, if you listen to my music, you can hear all those influences.
I was just about to get at that. Like, to me, and I say this a lot of times, like, genre's kind of dead, like in the sense that you need to specifically be an artist
Fully
of a certain,
dead.
of a genre, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I know that you're a big fan of classic R&B and soul. Like, what about like 80s new wave and like the synth pop kind of stuff? Because I feel there's influences there in the music that you're releasing now.
Yeah, I do. But actually, I don't really know. I'm not really up on like new wave music. I like In Excess. Does that count as that?
I would say so.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like
sure.
I like them. I like all the smashes. Like I like David Bowie. I like all his 80s joints. Prince, obviously. So there is a little bit of that, but that side of it is, to me, is like more current. Like when you hear like my synths and like all that, that's more me like, you know, what's up, like, oh, that's more like MGMT, M83.
Yeah,
like,
the whole like explosion of indie
Phoenix,
music.
like that kind of, that's like more me going over there than it is really me knowing about 80s new wave. But like the soul shit, I definitely, you know, have always just listened to that since I was a little kid.
Speaking of indie music, but a different thing, you had an indie release, Only the Poets.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were probably most familiar with the track Relapse.
Mhm.
With I Am Sue, obviously the timing of that's a great record. But there's a hidden gem on there which is also interesting timing with the duet or duo, whatever you want to call it, with Kehlani.
Yeah, okay. So that's actually still to this day, I think, the song that most people know me for, or, you know, first heard about me on, because Kehlani's manager, I knew, David Ali, and I was at the studio one day and he was like, yo, I got this new artist, you know, I'm going to bring her by. And I had already been working with like other young singers and stuff. This was when I was like on my writing tip, and Kehlani just came through and we just wrote that song together. She had the beat. It was a Jahan Sweet beat. That's her like main producer and music director. So that was crazy, like seeing her and just watching all that's happened with her and how, you know, incredible and meteoric her rise has been is, you know, I'm like a part of that. That's cool.
Crazy,
That's
yeah.
another like
That's
Bay
dope.
Area thing. You know, it's the same with me and G-Eazy and I Am Sue and HBK and all these people. Like we've been doing this and
Right.
we've been supporting each other and making music for each other, and I'll like write hooks or whatever, send them out to people. Like P-Lo has like 3 of my songs, put them out, bro.
Right.
So it's just all love.
But that, you know, it's kind of interesting because, like, you know, when you're doing it, you may not realize that right there in the moment, you're actually organically capturing something. You know, I know you're, you know, being humble about your own career, but yourself and Kehlani doing that. Like, what was that, like 2014?
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so 2016 and beyond, like that's something people still may be familiarizing themselves with and not know about it, even though a lot of people do. When you're looking back in time, you know what I'm saying? You're like, whoa, that's a trip that these people were on that like that.
I just posted a picture of us from that day. It's on my Instagram. It's funny. Like you could see we look like.
What is your Instagram? Make sure they
It's
think you got your
everything
own
is
dedicated.
Marc E Bassy, MarceBassy.
There you go, Marc E Bassy. Tell us about the upcoming project that you're working on, like what to expect, like sonically, topically. I know you keep it like really personal and authentic.
Well, it's called Groovy People. It comes out in September. I got the first single is coming out May 6th. That's called You and Me. But I've been like really kind of like wrapped up in this crazy Hollywood world, you know, even though I'm with everyone's from the Bay around me, but we all kind of like live this weird life, and there's a lot of like drugs, alcohol, sex, partying, hurt feelings, psychosis,
Fashion.
all types of shit. Like
Chicks.
people are crazy. People get crazy in LA. And Groovy People is like me trying to, it's like the idea is like I'm taking all my closest friends and being like, let's escape. We have to get out of here before we all fully lose it, which sounds like weirder than it is, but that's kind of,
I feel you.
that
though.
is kind of like, that's really is what it is. And I have a lot of fun. Like, I love what I do, and I love, you know, fucking around and just being like a free individual. So that's kind of the Groovy People theme is sort of that. It's like a nod to like the hippies and just that living free like that, and like being in love with music and listening to music, and just how if music is the number one priority in your life is kind of crazy. You know, if that's like, because you have to follow the music, you have to be out, you have to be at these festivals, you have to run around, you have to just follow the sound, and you never know where it's going to take you, really. And that's been my life, you know, throughout since I was in high school, really.
So when it comes to your writing process, how much of your personal life do you actually put
It's
into?
all
Is it
in
all
there,
100%?
man. Like, anyone who, I live with a bunch of people, and like even their stories sometimes, like I put them all on blast. Everyone's on my album. And I think for me, like the way that you become culturally like relevant is when, you know, you and your friends, you know, the 10 people you really kick it with, create something. And that's like what I try to do with my songs. Is they're just like little nods to the people around me, to what I'm going through, what we're all going through. And I want my friends to be able to listen to music and be like, oh yeah, I remember when Bassy like did that crazy shit.
Yeah.
Right, relate to it.
Yeah, I remember when this happened, that happened. And then as that extends, that's how I want people to feel. That's how people really relate to music. And, you know, like sometimes I'm like turning up and doing what you would expect, but then sometimes it's deeper than that. And I tried to, like, the album has a lot of live instrumentation.
Are you classically trained in like either vocals or instrumentation or anything like that?
I'm not classically trained like that, but I listen to classic music, so I know what I like to hear, but not in terms of like playing. But I always make sure to like surround myself with really talented musicians, and I have like backup singers on the album, organs, electric guitar, all that. So
A lot of depth musically going on there.
yeah, as much as I can. Like, I've been doing music for a while. I don't want to just be part of like whatever the wave is right now, because I was writing songs before this wave, and I was writing songs at the last wave in 2011, you know. So I just want to make sure whatever I do is just exactly how I'm feeling.
It makes sense to me that you would come off of East Hollywood and then come out with the project Groovy People with the Barry influence, being in there, having that experience. I mean, like the whole Sunset Hills vibe, you know, I've lived out there, so I can relate a little bit to what you're saying. There is some of that like still hippie spirit, but at the same time, I describe Hollywood as this tripped out place where it's like the most shallow, judgmental place on earth, but then also the most amazing artistic opportunity. And if you go out there with your own kind of sense of identity and your own crew, like it's a whole other experience rather than going there to find yourself. So, I mean, the Groovy People record to me seems like something that make a lot of sense coming off the heels of your actual experience, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's good. I've never even thought about it like that, but no, but that's true. It is like that. It's like, it's definitely, my music has been turning more and more into what I wanted it to be. And when I've made Only the Poets, you know, that was me like pushing myself, but I had limited resources, mixing wise, production value was less. And then East Hollywood, it's been growing. And then this is like really, like they gave me a big ass room with every instrument and access to other talent, backup singers, producers. And this is like me really getting to just trip out. And like the way I make music, I could just go in the studio and like kind of like roll a joint and just kind of like walk around and think about what I want to do. I sit at the piano and just sing some shit, record that. Oh, let me bounce over here. And it's just like a real free process. And it took a while to just be able to get to do that. So that's kind of part of the growth too, is like just watching it expand. And I'm excited to just do more and get like, do like crazier videos and have visuals that go with my music, because my music does tell like a personal story, and I want people to just feel the story writing aspect of it.
That's the snowball of success breeding more success, where you get now the opportunity, like people are like, oh, we fuck with your art, you're dope. Now you get the opportunity to really do your art to the level you want to, you know, visually with all the other musicians and features. It's like now you get to really open up that whole world. You know, it's got to be fun for you.
That's the best part. It's like I'm like a, you know, kid in a candy store type thing.
I hope you never lose that, man. I think that's what keeps people generating, you know, more and more beautiful new art, you know?
Yeah, that's what I want.
What I want to know is, growing up and as you got into the music and everything, did you have a lot of support from family and friends, or were you kind of told not to go down that route? And did it kind of push you even harder to want to do music?
Who said, Marc, you can't do this?
Nah, you know, my mom My mom's an entrepreneur. She's a beast. She's really smart. And I think she was the first person to know I was kind of miserable. Like when I went to college for like a semester at UC Santa Cruz. And I was like, Mom, I want to go to LA and try to do music. And she was very supportive. Obviously, a lot of people are always like, oh, you're going to do music? Like, good luck. Like, see you never. But the people that are close to me, they've always supported me. And I surround myself with unconventional people, you know? Like, there's no one around me who is normal, really, or has, like, a normal job or life. Everyone
on top
is...
of that, super talented.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
my whole crew is honestly, they're a problem. All of them in their own right are really, really talented, really smart, but all a little too weird or crazy
No such thing.
in their own way.
No such thing.
But to be part of, you know, they're not going to just work at an office and be in a cubicle or work in finance or something like that. And that's kind of part of being in the Bay Area, too, because when you're from the Bay Area is this generation, our parents were... This is where gay rights started. This is like the hippie movement. This is the weirdest, most fringy shit that ever happened was in this city in the 60s.
Something in the soil, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's why people who come from that sort of cultural background really can do well and take advantage of the Hollywood and the entertainment industry in LA. If you come with that identity.
Because they don't have it like us. They have all the lights and the sets and the studios, but we have the real, like, people are actually just crazy up here and then got rich, like, you know, rich hippies too, and it's like so much is based around that, and it shows in our music. It shows in everything, Sly Stone to Mac Dre to E40, Too Short, whatever. And so I'm, you know, that's kind of, I feel supported just being from here in general.
Just real quick, and we're gonna get out of here in a minute, but how would you describe your music for somebody who didn't know anything about you? Like, what would you describe yourself as?
I just say I make soulful pop music. I mean, at the end of the day, I want my songs to be on the radio. I want people to, like, sing along. I want to make pop music, popular music. But it's definitely, I come from hip hop, but it's soulful.
Everything's hip hop.
Everything
is soul.
Yeah,
right?
Everything is soul.
If you're really doing it. All right. This man, you probably already know. If you don't know, you need to know. What is it again? It's at
Marc E Bassy, MarceBassy. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all that. Hit me up. I always hit everybody back. I'm good with the fans, people that show love. Try to show it back.
There you go.
Most definitely. Tony Tone, Truth Live, Rebel Pop Radio,
Thank
Wild
you,
94.9. Pleasure to have you, brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.